very much for having me. It's always a delight to speak to this group. And I'd like to start off by saying that I'm very honored and privileged to be with all of you today. Since 51% of you have never heard me before, I'd like to give you just a little background. I'm a physician. I trained in internal medicine and then endocrinology and then neuroendocrinology, which is the study of brain chemistry. And that's what led me to see the connection between what happens in our consciousness and how that relates to our experience of what we call mind, body, and the world. So today's talk is how do we create our personal reality? I've subtitled it Adventures in the Metaverse because the current conversation in science is that we are living only in one of infinite possible universes. That there are 2 trillion galaxies, 700 sextillion stars, uncountable trillions of planets. And right now we have something called the James Webb Telescope in space, looking at the origins of the universe. So if we put this on scale, we are not even a speck of dust in the junkyard of infinity. And right now, if you looked at all the beaches of the world, then planet Earth is one little speck of sand in all the beaches. And yet we have the consciousness, human consciousness, to figure out what could be reality. So let me start immediately with the slides, and then we'll see how this can be actually a practical adventure for all of you, for not only creating your own body as joyful and energetic, having a loving, compassionate heart, clear mind, and lightness of being. Let's start with the slides, please. So what I want to share with you is that today there is a lot of talk on what is called the direct method of investigating reality. So the direct method of investigating reality says that if we really deeply go into the nature of experience, then what we experience is basically sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. Once again, direct experience is sensations, which means bodily sensations, musculoskeletal sensations, visceral sensations, but then also images, sense perceptions, and images based on those sense perceptions. So sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell. And then imagination as a result, and finally thought. So the acronym for this is SIFT. SIFT, sensations, sense perceptions, images, feelings, and thoughts. This is what we experience right now. As human beings, you have a very narrow band of perceptual activity that you're experiencing. The visual band, for example, is between approximately 300 nanometers to 800 nanometers. Similarly, the auditory spectrum is a very narrow bandwidth of experience. Taste, smell, likewise. When we look at the world, what we're looking at is colors, shapes, forms. We are hearing sounds, basically noise. Then we also are tasting and smelling and touching. And then we are interpreting this as thought, which leads to imagination and desire. And this process is how we construct our everyday reality. So this is what I mean by direct method. When we look directly at experience, you do not experience what we call a body or a mind or even a world. Those are interpretations of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. This sounds a little abstract, but let me share with you how this can become very practical. So next slide, please. In the next slide, all I'm saying is that perception is a learned phenomenon. Perception occurs when we give meaning to direct sensory experience. So when I was a medical student, I read an experiment that got the experimenters the Nobel Prize in physiology and medicine. And these experimenters were looking at little kittens, and they saw that if they brought up a group of kittens in a room that had only horizontal stripes, then when these kittens grew up, they could only see a horizontal world. Another group of kittens grew up in a room that had only vertical stripes, and when they grew up, they could only see a vertical world. Is the world horizontal or is the world vertical? It depends on who's looking. And in this case, when the neural networks of these cats were examined, they had connections only to see either a horizontal world or a vertical world, because that was their initial experience of reality, and that was their interpretation of reality. Similarly, when you and I are born, we are given a name. We're given an identity. So Deepak is your name. You come from such and such religion. This is your family. This is your social status. This is your economic status. And then as we give meaning to sift sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts through this kind of indoctrination, which is called the conditioned mind, then that projects as our experience of what we call mind, body, and the physical world. So in reality, what you call your body is a changing perceptual activity. You started as a fertilized egg, then you became a zygote, then an embryo, then an infant, then a baby, then a toddler, then a teenager, on, adult, old person, all the way to dusty death. So your body is a process, and it's a perceptual activity in your consciousness. It's your awareness projecting itself as your body. And how you interpret that is your mind, and how you feel about that, good or bad, is your emotions. And that leads to imagination and memory and desire. And so we recycle our identity, which is very provisional, conditioned mind, as the experience of what we call the physical body and our physical world. Next slide, please. Now, may I have the next slide, please? So once we give meaning to sensations and once we create these perceptions, the storyline created by emotions and thoughts is the creation of what we call everyday reality, which then we construct as body, mind, and world. In other words, you, at a very fundamental level, as consciousness, are modifying yourself into an activity called mind, body, universe. The you that is doing that is referred to consciousness. And consciousness is without form. It has no location. And being without form, it is infinite. And even as it modifies itself into finite experiences, it remains infinite. That's why spiritual traditions say the soul is immortal. Immortal means it doesn't exist in time. Your soul, your consciousness, your core being, your awareness is a field of infinite possibilities. It is a field of infinite correlation or synchronicity. It is a field of uncertainty. It is the source of insight, intuition, imagination, evolution. It is self-regulating and it is self-organizing, and it begins its journey of knowing itself through attention and intention. Just those two things, not rational thought. Whatever you put your attention on grows stronger energetically, and then whatever your intention is, it transforms the energy into a new shape, a new form, a new experience that we call existence. Next slide, please. So mind, body, and world are human constructs. They are illusions. Illusions means they have a dream-like experience. If I asked you what happened to your childhood, it's now a dream. If I asked you what happened to your teenage years, it's a dream. What happened to yesterday? It's a dream. What happened to this morning? It's a dream. What happened to 5 minutes ago? It's a dream. What happens to these words by the time you hear them? they don't exist. So all the time, you're actually recycling, interpreting sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts, and remembering old experiences, and then you give meaning to that, and you create the illusion that we call the physical body, the mind, and the world. Wittgenstein, the great German philosopher, said, "We are asleep. Our life is a dream, but once in a while we wake up enough to know that we are dreaming." And the Buddha said the same thing. This lifetime of ours is transient as autumn clouds. To watch the birth and death of beings is like looking at the movements of a dance. A lifetime is like a flash of lightning in the sky, rushing by like a torrent down a steep mountain. So when the Buddha was dying, his favorite disciple Ananda asked him, "Who are you? Are you a prophet? Are you God? Are you a Messiah?" He said, "I'm none of the above." And when Ananda persisted, "Who are you?" And then the Buddha's last words were, "I am awake." To wake up from the dream and recognize that everyday reality is a projection of the self is to be able to become the director, the producer, the protagonist, and the storyteller of your own reality, the constructor of your own reality. You as consciousness conceive, govern, construct, and become everything that we call mind, body, and universe. Next slide, please. So illusions are mistaken for reality until we understand the trick behind the illusion. And once we understand the trick, then we see that all perceptions are in a sense magical lies, and we embed ourselves in that magical lie, which is magical. It's magical because without the magical lie, you wouldn't have any experience. So why do I say this? All perception is a magical lie. Because first of all perception is conditioned and learned. We learn through culture, through history, through economics, through all the indoctrination that has been going on ever since humans started to tell stories about themselves and about others. But today, we recognize that everything we perceive is not the way it really is. After all, our perception tells us the earth is flat. Nobody believes that anymore. The perception tells us that the ground I'm standing on or sitting on is stationary. We know it's spinning at dizzying speeds and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. My perception tells me that your body is solid, this furniture is solid, that things exist in the theater of space-time and causality, but all of that is a perceptual illusion. So who or what is creating this illusion? And the answer is you. And once you understand the nature of you as I am infinite possibilities, I'm the field of creativity, I'm unpredictable, I'm the source of attention and intention, and I'm the source of all experience, which occurs synchronistically if I allowed it to happen by going to the source of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. Next slide, please. So once we understand the trick, then we can consciously create what we call the real reality, which is we become the consciousness that conceives, constructs, governs, and becomes everything that we call mind, body, and spirit. Next slide, please. Okay, then the freedom to create this everyday reality is also the freedom to alleviate our own suffering, the freedom from the loss of the fear of death, and knowing ourselves as timeless beings occurs spontaneously when we get to the source of all experience through various techniques, including mindfulness, self-reflection, inquiry, transcendence, awareness of thoughts, awareness of sensations, awareness of perceptions, because the awareness of an experience is intrinsically free of the experience. So when you look at religious or spiritual experience, not religious dogma or religious ideology, but religious experience, then we find three things. One is transcendence, knowing yourself as timeless being immortal, timeless, infinite, irreducible, without cause, number one. The second, the emergence of platonic values like truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, compassion, joy, bliss, insight, and creativity. And the third is the loss of the fear of death, because you, the real self, is timeless being beyond birth and death. How this relates to the construction of our everyday experience of reality, we'll come to very soon. Next slide, please. So now I want to share with you that what we call reality is entangled. Entangled means everything is inseparably one with everything else. At the quantum level, force fields and particles are all existing in superposition. They all exist simultaneously together. Our experience of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts is also entangled. You change a sensation, you change a thought. You change a thought, you say change an emotion. You change an emotion, you change what happens in your imagination. Similarly, by giving meaning to experiences, we get entangled in meaning. We all agree what a dollar means, or a pound means, or latitude means, or longitude means. These are human constructs. And this ultimately results in the metabolism of what we call everyday experience, which is a total inseparability of existence at every level, mind, body, universe. Next slide, please. Okay, so now that we have understood how perception occurs, then this is true for all of our five senses. Visual experience, auditory experience, experience of taste, of smell, all experience is a constructed experience. Next slide, please. So matter in the physical world are actually created through our own experience, and our shared experience is what we call everyday reality. Next slide, please. Very quickly, now you'll see that what you see on the screen is basically a bunch of colors, but if you chose to give meaning to those colors, you could either see a skull or a woman sitting in front of a mirror trying her makeup. Next slide, please. Here you could see a goblet, or you could see two faces looking at each other by giving meaning. But what the actual experience is nothing but colors and shapes. Next slide, please. Here again, you could see a woman's face, or you could see a man playing a bugle. The meaning that you give creates the perception, and then the perception creates feelings and thoughts. Next. In this slide, you could see a young woman, an older woman, or a man with a mustache, given on the meaning you give to this experience. Next slide, please. Over here, you could see either a Mexican riding a horse, and you could see some person lying on the sidewalk, or you could see an old man with a beard. But what is it really? All it is on the screen, what you see, is a bunch of colors. And colors, shapes, and forms are the same thing. In the absence of color, there's no shape. In the absence of shape, there's no form. And what is giving meaning to that is formless, which is you. So the formless is modifying itself as form, as phenomenon. You know, there's a great poem by the Indian poet Tagore. In this playhouse of infinite forms, I saw and caught sight of the formless. And that formless is you, a soul, a spirit in a dimensionality of infinite formlessness. Rumi's expression. You're not just a drop in the ocean, you're also the ocean in the drop. Next slide, please. So too, if you see this, you could see flowers and a butterfly, or you could see a young woman. Again, depending on the meaning you give this experience. Next slide, please. Same thing here. Okay, a bird coming on a tree, or a young woman's face. Next slide, please. So here again, a woman with beautiful locks, or mountains and sky, and a backdrop, and two horses. Next slide, please. This is just to give you some idea that the way we construct visual experience is the same way we construct all the experience of all the five senses. You do not experience a world. You do not experience a body. You do not experience a mind. You experience sensations, images, feelings, thoughts that you then construct as mind, body, and the physical world. Next slide, please. So I like this. It reminds me of a poem by William Blake. He says, when we are led to believe a lie when we see with and not through the eye. We are led to believe a lie when we see with and not through the eye, that was born in a night to perish in a night, while the soul slept in beams of light. So here you can read the word liar, or you can choose to see a face. What does it mean if I see both? That if you see both, you're switching from one to the other very rapidly. Next slide, please. Okay, finally, this slide, the face that you see right now in this slide doesn't actually exist in the slide. You construct the face. And everything else that you see is also forms and colors and shapes that are constructed into whatever you're constructing right now, dragons and other kinds of animals. Next slide, please. Same thing here. The face that you see is a construction in your consciousness. This is to illustrate how we conceive, construct, govern, and become everything that we call reality. Next slide, please. So given this, there's another way to see reality, to see your body as not physical, but as energy. But then go beyond that to see your body as not even energy, but information. And then go even beyond that and see that your body is a pattern of behavior of a universe that is modifying itself into images, feelings, thoughts, sensations, and that each species, biological species, is constructing its own reality. Next slide, please. So with this, I want to invite you to an adventure. Wake up to meta-human. Meta means beyond. And when I say meta-human, it means going beyond the conditioned mind. And the steps to that are very simple. Okay, first is non-reactivity. So anytime you feel stress or you feel resistance, stop. I use this stop formula. Stop. Take 3 deep breaths. Smile from your head to your toe. Observe sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. And then proceed with awareness and compassion. And then start to develop the ability to actually experience directly without interpretation. What Krishnamurti said, the highest intelligence is the ability to observe yourself without judging yourself. And when you start to do that, you start to observe others without judging them. And that creates this experience of meta-human, observing ourselves, having a perceptual experience, observing ourselves as giving meaning to that perceptual experience, observing ourselves making choices. And as we do that, then the world opens up to us as infinite possibilities, intention that is spontaneously fulfilled. So we call it spontaneous fulfillment of desire, which occurs through synchronicity, which religious traditions call the state of grace. But you could call it good luck. You could just say opportunity meeting preparedness, or synchronicity, or being in the right place at the right time. Next slide, please. So this is now something that we have been studying at our foundation, that reality is different in different states of consciousness. So right now you're experiencing what we call the waking state of consciousness as you're listening to this. But the waking state of consciousness is a lucid dream in a vivid now. At night you experience something called dream state. And then you go even deeper into what is called deep sleep. And now we say that there's a fourth state of consciousness when you become aware of the observer in the midst of the observation. The observer is the timeless factor in the midst of every time-bound observation. This fourth state is glimpsing the soul consciousness. If you abide in that during waking, dreaming, and sleeping, that's called cosmic consciousness. And then that, if you abide in that, you graduate to divine consciousness. You experience the divine in everything that you experience. And finally, you recognize that the divine in you and the divine in everything else is one, and you see yourself as the source of all experience. So reality changes as we expand our awareness through these techniques, metacognition. Then the brain changes, the mind changes, the body changes, and the experience of the world changes. I have just launched something called the longevity experiment to show that if we understand this process, how we actually project our bodies, then we can extend our lifespan and our health span and even reverse the biological markers of aging. So if you're interested in the longevity experiment, and I would actually ask the faculty of Real Success if they want to participate with us in an affiliate program, then please go to longevity.choprafoundation.org or just send an email to longevity@choprafoundation.org. But we'll be happy to collaborate with Real Success and see if we can also create a program for reversal of biological age. So every day, in every way, if we increase our mental and physical capacity a little bit and harness the power of our own consciousness, then we can actually embark on this great adventure, which I'm calling reality is different in different states of consciousness. Next slide, please. This is what ultimately will lead to meta-reality and our experience of meta-reality. We will recognize ourselves prior to conditioning. We are pure consciousness, a field of infinite possibilities, which is formless, which is infinitely creative, unfolds through synchronicity, is free of its own modifications, and is rooted in just one knowing, I am. Not I am Deepak Chopra. I am Deepak Chopra is the conditioning of I am. So I am is common to all of us as this field of infinite possibilities. How we modify I am into I am this or that creates our perceptual reality. Next slide, please. So when we combine meta-human ideas with what we call meta-reality, we enter our new adventure, the metaverse. And this is what we want to do together. I hope if we transform enough personally, we can all enjoy a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world, starting with ourselves. Because peace can only be created by those who are peaceful. Love can only be shared by those who know how to love. And synchronicity can only be orchestrated if you are in touch with the deeper self, the self of the individual, which is also the self of the universe. Next slide, please. And these are some of the milestones that we're already seeing in our research, that people have an experience where they feel that they are creating their own reality. They have spontaneous creativity, they have synchronicity, they have spontaneous emergence of platonic values like truth, goodness, beauty, harmony. They have enormous success, not through hard work, driving ambition, and exacting plans, but through synchronicity and meaningful coincidence. And they know that real success is the progressive realization of worthy goals, the ability to love and have compassion, and ultimately to always experience vision, creativity, flow, and understanding that we are the source, and this source is beyond both birth and death, timeless being, the non-changing factor in every changing experience. Next slide, please. This is how I wanted to lay the ground. And now I'm going to take you through an experience. And before I take you through an experience, I'm looking at some of your questions, and I would love to answer any questions right now, but I'm seeing that most of you are basically agreeing, and some of you are asking about the longevity experiment. So let me share with you some things about the longevity experiment. And then if you do join us, you can either send an email to longevity@choprafoundation.org or longevity.chopra foundation, or just get in touch with the organizers of this seminar and we can work together. But here's something that I want to share with you before we go into the meditation. So when we look at biological age, human age, right now, the fastest growing segment of the population in affluent countries is over the age of 90. In fact, maybe over the age of 100. That means people are living longer, but they're not necessarily living healthier. So there's a difference between health span and lifespan. 95% of human resources are spent during the last year or two of life, which is very tragic, because those last 2 years of life, or sometimes last several years of life, can be in a very debilitated state. Can we extend the health span so that we can live long and die young? And also, in the great spiritual traditions, die in meditation, what is called Mahasamadhi. So over the years, I've looked at what is called biological age, psychological age, spiritual age, and and chronological age. Chronological age is when you were born. So my chronological age is 75. I believe my biological age right now is about 40, because my biomarkers are those of a 40-year-old. So the psychological age and chronological age and biological age are completely different things. By understanding that your body is a process and changing your perception of the body, the perception of the meaning of aging, the perception of reality that the body is actually made of formless stuff, which is non-stop, which is pure consciousness. And by engaging in practices like restful sleep, mindfulness, meditation, stress management, vagal stimulation, emotional resiliency, social engagement, managing your biological rhythms, and recognizing that there are supplements and adaptogens that modulate the effects of stress at a very fundamental level, we can begin to reverse the aging process. So your biological age does not have to correspond to your chronological age. As I said, I'm 75, but that's not my biological age. And therefore, I invite you to look at these pillars of well-being: restful sleep, deep meditation, mindfulness, emotional resiliency, balancing your circadian rhythms, taking a diet that has maximum diversity of plant-based foods so you can change the genetic information in your gut, because most of the genetic information in your body is not human, it's microbial. So that's a glimpse into that. And now what I'd like to do, and if you want to know more about the longevity experiment, we're going to have 3 tiers. One is totally free, and we'll give you all the information. The second is occasional webinars, which we can do with you guys as well. And the third is actually inviting people to participate with biometrics, measuring everything from blood pressure to telomerase to inflammatory markers, etc. I'm right now on location at the Chopra Foundation offices, University of Central Florida in Orlando. This is where we do the experiments. Okay, now, wherever you are, please sit comfortably. Keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. Keep your hands open on your lap. Close your eyes. And we're going to start our concluding session with a little bit of meditation that will be giving you some clues on how we actually harness the power of our own consciousness, harness the power of our own being. Okay, close your eyes, keep your feet firmly on the ground, keep your hands open on your lap, and use a backrest chair so that your spine is relatively erect, and observe your breath with your eyes closed. This was the first Vipassana meditation that was practiced by the Buddha. As he observed his breath, he recognized that the breath is spontaneous. We don't breathe, we are being breathed. Goes back all the way to all the spiritual traditions. If you read the Bible, the Lord God made man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So now observe your breath. And as the Buddha observed his breath, he recognized that every experience is a sensation, just like the breath. I mentioned earlier, sensations, images, feelings, thoughts. He also recognized that breath arises, is experienced, then it subsides. All experiences like that. Arises, you experience it, subsides. If you hold on to your breath, you'll suffocate. And the Buddha said, you hold on to any experience, you'll suffocate, because the experience is over as soon as it's born. The only person to hold on to is the deeper self. So as you're observing your breath, just remind yourself, I am aware in every breath I take. I am present in every breath I take. And now, keeping your eyes closed, just gently touch your clothes or any part of your skin. Mentally remind yourself, I am present in everything I touch. Now slightly open your eyes and look at the computer, look at your own room where you are, look at the furniture, look at your own body, and remind yourself, I am present in everything I see. Close your eyes again, listen to the sound of my voice or any other sound. Remind yourself, I am present in everything I hear. Generate a little saliva in your mouth, taste it, taste the back of your teeth, the roof of your mouth, and remind yourself, I am present in everything I taste. Notice any odors or fragrances going into your nostrils. If you're sensitive, you will be able to smell right now whatever is happening in your environment, and remind yourself, I am present in everything I smell. And now evoke an image in your consciousness, any image, the face of your mother, the Empire State Building, snow-clad mountains, Milky Way galaxy. See how easy it is? You just have the thought and the image comes. I am present in everything I imagine. And now, ask yourself, I wonder what my next thought is going to be, and wait for it to come. Observe a thought as it comes to you, passes by the screen of your consciousness. And remind yourself, I'm present in everything I think. Now bring your awareness to your heart and mentally ask yourself, who am I? What am I? Am I the changing body? Or am I the awareness in which the changing body is an experience? Am I the changing mind? Or am I the awareness in which the mind is a changing experience? Am I my ego personality, or am I the awareness in which my personality is a changing experience? Who am I? What am I? Don't try to answer the question. Just be alert to any sensation, image, feeling, or thought that may come to you. Now mentally ask yourself, what do I want? Don't try to answer the question. Just ask and receive. What do I want? What is my deepest desire? Observe any sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. And that's what you want. And your consciousness will organize that. Now ask yourself, what is my calling? What is my highest purpose? Once again, don't try to answer it. Just observe any sensations, images, feelings, thoughts. And now ask yourself, what am I grateful for? Gratitude opens the door to your soul. What am I grateful for? Observing any sensations, images, feelings, or thoughts that may spontaneously come to you. What am I grateful for? And now we'll go to the final part of our meditation. So mentally repeat your name to yourself. I am Deepak Chopra. I am Jennifer Lopez. I am Tony. Just your full name to yourself. Tony DeMello. Recognize that's not who you are. That's your name. So drop your name now. And just repeat the phrase, I am, with no name and no form attached to it. I am, mentally. When you get distracted, just repeat, I am, mentally. Finally, replace the I am with the mantra, aham, 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 sound of existence. Aham, aham. Finally, let go of that and just rest in your own self. Be aware of that which is listening to me. Be aware of your own presence. Awareness has no form, no shape, no color, no sound, no texture, no image. But without it, there are no colors, no shapes, no forms, no images, no thoughts. Know yourself as the ultimate source of all creation, the self of the individual, which is also the self of the universe. Rest in your own being. Before we begin to come out of this meditation, let your awareness come back into your body and then expand outside the boundaries of your body, pervading all of space and time. And just before we finish, remind yourself, I'm present in every experience across the fabric of space and time. I am. I am. Be aware now of being aware. And now if you want, you can just relax in your body, stretch, yawn, and slowly open your eyes. Thank you very much.
What a powerful, powerful meditation there. I know it's just a few moments, but it feels so grounded, it feels relaxed. You know, it's so easy, Brian, for us to forget the importance of just becoming aware of that presence that's there.
Yeah, I love Deepak. And I know we were just talking about the many opportunities. We're going to be hopefully working a lot more with Deepak this year. And I just think his work is incredible. And he's really just opening people up, to really understanding their connection more. We speak about it often when we talk about Secret to Success and as well, the importance of source, which is a broad term for whatever people choose to believe in terms of, the greater intelligence out there. But we look forward to working